moment. It's usually the mind that goes wandering into the past and the future, and the mind can be all over the place. And unfortunately for our minds, they're rarely in the present moment. So we often can use our body as an anchor to bring us back to the present moment. So as we're standing here, see if you can drop your awareness out of the thinking mind and into your feet. Really feel your feet on the ground. Feel your feet being supported by the earth below you. And any other sensations that are present in your lower legs and feet. And you might not feel much there because we're not used to focusing on body sensations unless we have pain or discomfort. And then it's a real draw to our pain and discomfort. But most of the time we're up in our head and we're ignoring our body. So see if you can drop your awareness into your feet. And a way to kind of really start feeling into these sensations is to maybe shift the weight a little bit. So shift your weight, even if you're seated, shift your weight onto your left leg. So just a little bit, leave the right leg on the ground, the right foot on the ground, and just lean more into the left foot and start to feel the difference in the sensations. Right leg and left foot. Your left leg might be more, the muscles are more engaged. You might feel more tightness or tension in that leg. More weight on the bottom of the foot. Just notice those differences. And then you can shift to the other foot, bringing the weight of the body more onto the right foot, the right leg. And again, notice those differences. Notice what's different in right and left foot. And if you like, you can close your eyes because that can kind of help you feel a bit more of what's present. Just noticing what's here. And then moving the body back to the center. So having the weight evenly distributed on both feet. And then notice if any new sensations are present for you that weren't there before we shifted our weight back and forth. See if you can start to feel more of the body sensations, more of what's going on with the foot, the ankles, the lower legs. You might be feeling more sensations now than you were before. Or maybe not, doesn't matter. Just noticing what's here. And then again, you can do this sitting down, just with an inhale. Start to slowly bring the arms up, first to the side, and then up overhead. And reach with your fingers up toward the ceiling, toward the sky above you. Reach. And only do this as this is in your comfort range. Only go to your edge. If there's any pain, don't do it. But if it's okay to reach the arms overhead, reach. Notice the sensations that are now present, possibly in the shoulders, the sides of the torso. And then with your next exhale, slowly bring the arms back down. And then let them relax to your side if you're standing or on your lap, wherever they are. And again, start to notice what's present in the arms now. You might feel more tingling, more vibrations, more heat possibly in the shoulders. Really tuning in to the felt sense of the body now. Those places that we just stretched. And now we're going to move just one arm. So taking your left arm up, leaving the right arm dangling, and just reach the left arm up toward the ceiling. And reaching up just as you did before, but just with the one arm, almost as if you're trying to grab like a lemon, off a lemon tree and you're just out of your reach. So you're reaching, you can even, if it's okay for your neck, you can look up at your hand. And keep breathing, make sure you're breathing. Don't hold your breath. And then on your next exhale, slowly, slowly, slowly bringing that arm down to your side. And then notice if there's any difference between right arm and left arm. You might be feeling more sensations in the arm that we just reached overhead, more tingling, more energy in the arm, pulsations, heat. And just noticing, you may even feel like that arm is longer than the other arm. And now let's move to the other arm. So this time the right arm goes up, overhead, reaching up toward the sky. And again, if it's good for your neck and you don't have any pain there, you can look up toward the hand, doing what's good for your body. Grabbing that piece of fruit that's just out of reach. Reach, reach, reach. Breathing. And then slowly lowering that arm on an exhale. And again, noticing what's present. And again, if you want to close your eyes, that sometimes can help. Checking in. Suddenly, for me, I feel like my hands are so much more alive than they were before. Lots of sensation. Tingling, vibrations. And then we'll just do one last mindful movement before we return to our seat. And this time we'll bring our shoulders up toward our ears and then back, down and forward. So a few shoulder rolls at a pace that feels good to you. Be slow, fast, just noticing what it takes to move this part of the body. Don't forget to breathe. And then reversing the direction, so back, up, forward, and down. Doing a few of these. Maybe doing 2 or 3 more in this direction. And then one more, just allowing the shoulders to return back to stillness. And then noticing what's present now. Again, we're in our resting pose here, just either standing or sitting and observing what's present. What's present in the body. You might feel more sensations in the shoulders or the area between the shoulder and neck. You might feel more heat. Maybe they're more relaxed. Maybe they've dropped a little bit. And then we'll end this just by taking a breath in as we lift the hands overhead. So an inhale and then an exhale. And then 2 more, just with the pace of your own breath, with the arms going up on the inhale, going down on the exhale. So just linking it with your breath. And then one more time, do one more. Inhale, exhale, down. And then you might want to just shake the arms out. And then returning to your seat if you were standing. And I'm going to go back to gallery view so I can see everyone. All right, so that was a way of doing mindfulness that's not mindfulness meditation on a chair, like sitting meditation. Oftentimes when we think about mindfulness meditation, we're thinking about doing formal seated meditation. you can bring mindfulness to any activity. And I guess that's what I wanted to tell you, is that mindful movement can feel really good to do during the day, right? To just take short moments during the day to get your eyes away from the screen and into your body, and kind of give your mind a little break, right? From being constantly in our thinking mind, which happens often to all of us. So I wanted to open it up for any questions so far. If anyone has any comments, or you can put it in the chat if you noticed anything interesting during that short mindful movement activity, or if you noticed, I'd be really curious to notice if your mind, if the thinking mind kind of took a break while you were doing that. For some, it does take a break and we're easily able to go into our bodies. For others of us, our thinking mind gets really active when we're doing movement, because we're like, I don't like this, or this doesn't feel good, or my shoulder hurts, or this is stupid, or whatever, whatever our mind is telling us. So, so with mindfulness exercises, what's nice is that you find what works for you, right? And some people love mindful movement, some people hate it, some people don't care either way, right? So if anyone's willing to share their experience with that short mindfulness movement, you can just put it in the chat if you're willing. Crunchy shoulders. Yeah, so even though you can hear like, wow, my shoulders are crunchy. Yeah.
It was good to get up and stretch, and I know I should do that at least once or twice a day, and I usually don't because I just get caught up, and then by the time I get up, I'm all not standing up straight, and I feel like, I've just been sitting too long, so it felt really good.
Great, thank you, Marilyn. Thank you. Yeah, it felt good. Made me notice my sore forearm that I've been using too much lately, right? Because we can get so disconnected from our bodies, right? And then all of a sudden we stop and we pay attention and we realize, hey, my body needs some kind attention. My body needs some nurturance, right? And we won't know that unless we bring some mindfulness to the present moment. I like Martha's. I started yawning, but not out of boredom, a sign I was relaxing and unwinding. Yeah, and your body also may have just needed to breathe. I don't know if any of you have heard of Zoom apnea or email apnea. Like sometimes when we're on the computer a lot, we'll actually hold our breath way more than we need to, and we're not taking good, deep breaths. So the yawning could be just your body's like, thank you, like I need some oxygen, I need some air. There's some shoulds about I should be doing it more. Yeah, and that's interesting because we start to notice our thoughts, because we can turn, when we do something like this, we're like, it felt good, I need to do it more, right? So there's that like pressure we put on ourselves. And yeah.
Actually, I was thinking if there is any way to do some light exercises in connection with mindfulness that will also strengthen our muscles a little bit. For instance, yesterday we had a very intense workout, body weight, and I realized that while it makes me feel good, I couldn't just do it all the way because I don't have the necessary training. But if I could somehow start doing it slowly with this movement, like you just showed us, and in the same time kind of get in shape physically, like muscles and bones and joints especially, that would be great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Alice. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely the idea too of when we're moving our bodies, we can start also, that's why I was saying some people love it, they can drop out of their mind. Some people notice a lot of thoughts around it, like there could be a lot of shoulds, right? Should be doing this more, I'm really out of shape, or goodness gracious, to move a lot better 10 years ago. So we start having all those thoughts, right? And those are good to notice too, because that's part of the present moment. And we start to even notice, like, are these thoughts helpful? Maybe, maybe they're telling me, hey, I'm not my body enough, right? Or maybe I need to get stronger. Or are they self-critical thoughts and I'm feeling crappy about myself, right? So we start to have some discernment about our own mind. And then also allowing, like you said, Alice, which I think is really great, is the idea of working with your body rather than against it, right? So when we're being mindful of body movements, then we can start to notice, you know, maybe reaching my arm overhead is painful on my shoulder, right? And I need to maybe only move my arm a little bit up, or I can, you know, you start working within your comfort zone and then you can start to see progress, right? You don't, because we injure ourselves if we do things that
Yes, exactly.
yeah. So, okay. So I want to move on. Thank you so much for those of you who shared. So I wanted to share my screen because I did a workshop, which I can't believe it was already last spring, called the COVID-19 roller coaster. And I did it for some department. I think it was Nick Mata's group. And here we are a year later and we're still in the COVID-19 roller coaster, but I had a nice slide on mindfulness and I wanted to share that with you. So let me share my screen. Okay, so let me move this up. Oh goodness. Okay. So you'll see there's a what is mindfulness slide here. And I'm just going to read it. It's a couple definitions of mindfulness. So one is the idea of mindfulness is a practice of becoming more fully aware of the present moment using all of our senses, right? So oftentimes we're in the present moment, but we're only in the present moment paying attention to our own thoughts or the computer in front of us, or we're thinking of the future or the past, and we're not really noticing, like, what am I looking at? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? Like using all of our senses. So mindfulness gets to bring that entire presence to the present moment. And a more formal definition by John Kabat-Zinn from his book, Full Catastrophe Living. John Kabat-Zinn is I think he's I forget, he's a doctor, PhD, but he's one of the first to bring mindfulness to the West. It comes out of Buddhism. He brought it to University of Massachusetts back in the 70s and created a program called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And mindfulness then became more secular in nature. So it pulled it out of Buddhism and it's much more secular. So it's kind of like yoga became more secular. So you don't need to be a Buddhist to practice mindfulness. As you know, from all the many, many apps and mindfulness programs that are out there right now, he was one of the first to at least make it more secular. And there are both formal, like meditation, and informal ways to practice. So you can bring this full body, full awareness to your everyday activities. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But I wanted to just go back a little bit to one more slide. And when we start to notice our thoughts, we start to notice, wow, like I'm spending way too much time thinking about the past or the future, and I'm spending very little time in the here and now. I could be thinking about the future in terms of like my to-do list, all the things I have to do, or I could be worried about some upcoming deadline I have to reach, or I could be worried about when are they going to ask me to come back to work, I'm not ready yet. All these things that we're thinking about in the future. Or there's the past where we can like Fariba was saying, she misses hugging people, right? Or seeing people in person. So there's all these things we could be feeling sad about in the past, or we may have lost people in our lives during this past year. So so we can end up spending way much of our time, again, not being here in the present moment. In and of itself, if it's not a bad thing, right? Because we have these amazing frontal lobes and this executive functioning in our minds that allows us to think of the past and future, which is, and oftentimes it's a very good thing. But sometimes it's not a good thing, right? Because it can create more anxiety. So if we're spending so much of our time worrying about the future or being scared of something that hasn't happened yet, right? It can increase our anxiety levels. Or it can also, if we start really worrying about things or regretting things that happened in the past, or wishing like the present wasn't the present and longing for things that happened in the past, can lead to sometimes depression, right? So there can be some of that occurring if we don't learn how to cultivate this present moment awareness, which allows us to stay in the present moment. So we can do this. I'm going to stop my share. So we can do this in a number of different ways. So one way that we did, which is the practicing the mindful movement, we can also do it in the moment. There's some really great in the moment practices. And I really love this one. I hope this is helpful for you all. It's called five finger breathing. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this exercise. A lot of times it's for children. It's a great exercise. If you have kids and they're feeling overwhelmed, this is a great practice with kids, but it's great for adults too. So take your hand, so your non-dominant hand. So not, if you're lefty, use your right hand. If you're righty, use your left hand. And just, I'm putting my hand up here, but face the hand toward you, the palm toward you, and you can leave it down in your lap, whatever feels comfortable. I'm just putting it up in front of me because I want you to see my hand. So then take your finger, your index finger from your dominant hand and put the finger just down at the bottom of your pinky, right? And again, it doesn't have to be right in front of you. I'm just showing you this so you can see my hand. So notice what that feels like. So again, going back into those body sensations, notice what it feels like to have your finger pressing up against your pinky. And then when you're ready with your inhale, as you inhale, move your finger up toward the tip of your pinky. So with the length of your inhale, however fast or slow your inhale is, bring it up. And then with the exhale, bring it down. And then just let it sit there for a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the whole hand like that. And at your own pace with your inhale, the inhale will be going up the finger, the exhale will be going down the finger. So I'll let you do it at your own pace. I won't walk you through. So just, again, I'll start you out. So inhale up and exhale down at your own pace. You can be going as fast and slow. You don't need to change your breath. Do that until you get to the outside of your thumb. And it allows you to stop what you're doing, right? And take 5 nice breaths. Like just get out of your head. Gives you some feeling, right? Of the feeling tones of the touch of one finger to another finger. You can look at your hand. Sometimes people like to close their eyes, but I like to look at my hand because when I'm looking at my hand, I'm using that visual sense. So now I'm using my sight, I'm using my touch, I'm using my breath. And it gives me that nice pause, right? Especially if I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed, to break the cycle of the thinking, right? The excessive worrying or the rumination or the overwhelm. And it brings you back to the present moment. So I highly recommend if that's a good one for you, use it. If you have kids, you can share it with your kids. Another really nice technique that I like to use, and this is also great with kids, if anyone has kids, but it's great with adults as well, is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. And I don't know if anyone has heard of this. But when we get really overwhelmed or we're lost in thought or we're like, I was yesterday, like having a husband, clearly in a mood, this is a good technique as well. And it brings us back to using our senses again. So we're going to 5-4-3-2-1. So the first question we ask are, what are 5 things that I can see? So look around your room right now. What are 5 things that you can see in your room? And in your own mind, you can say them to yourself. Like, for example, I see my clock. I see a glass of water. I see a curtain. I see a picture. I see a chair. So you do 5 things that you can see. And then you say, what are 4 things that I can feel? So we're going from sight to touch. You think about, what do I feel? You could feel your seat in the chair, your feet on the ground. You might feel the air against your skin. You might feel the fabric of your clothing against your skin. So finding 4 things that you can feel. And then we go to hearing. What are 3 things that I can hear? I can hear Allison's voice. I might hear something outside my window. I might hear someone in the other room. Just 3 things that you can hear. The next 2 are a little harder. The 2 is, what are 2 things you can smell? And the reason why the next 2, the smell and the taste, we are so adaptive that we often become so habituated to smells in our own environment that we often don't smell them until something kind of new comes in, or something we don't like maybe, or food or something. But if you can find 2 things that you smell, so you might even want to smell your own skin if you're not having a, or you can smell your shirt. If that might give you something to smell. Or your hair if you have long hair. And then 1 thing you can taste, and again, that also might be something, but you can direct your attention inside your mouth onto your tongue. Is there anything you can taste in your mouth? You might want to run your tongue over your teeth. See if you taste anything. So again, it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It can be done in like a matter of 2 minutes or less. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. And this is a great way to ground yourself in the present moment, especially if you find yourself really lost in thought, especially like overwhelm or worries. So those are 2 great exercises to do if you are feeling anxious, overwhelmed, your mind is racing. Again, the 5-finger breathing and the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. So those are great in the moment kind of exercises that you can put in your pocket and take with you anywhere as some mindfulness tools. I wanted to get a sense though of the people in the group right now. So there's 30 of us. How many of you have had experience doing formal seated meditation? And you can just put a little, if you don't want to put yourself on camera, you can put a little thumbs up reaction in your screen. Okay, anybody else have done? Okay. Seeing some people, not too many, a few. Okay. So it seems like more of you have not maybe done formal meditation. Okay, so a little, seems like a little less than half have meditated before. Okay. So sometimes people get a little bit scared when they hear the word meditation, or there's like you have preconceived ideas for those of you who have maybe who've never tried it. And I think of it as maybe weird kind of marketing out there about meditation, because they always seem to show like someone who's meditating as like sitting cross-legged on top of a mountain or something in a field, and it's some beautiful like blonde-haired woman or something, with this serene look on her face, or it's like the Buddha or somebody, it's someone contorted in this difficult position and looking very serene. And then we try to meditate and we notice, first of all, my body hurts. I can't shut my mind up. I can't stop thinking. This is really hard. This is really uncomfortable. I don't like it, right? And then it becomes frustrating and it feels like it's inaccessible to us, like it's not something that I want to do. But I want to hopefully dispel that myth, right? That anyone can meditate. You all just meditated a little bit with the 5-finger breathing and the mindful movement. That was all mindfulness, right? It was just different ways of doing it. So when we do formal seated meditation, what we're doing is sitting down. You don't have to be cross-legged or contorted on a cushion. You can be in any position that feels comfortable for you. You can even do it lying down or standing up. Oftentimes, when we're meditating, there's usually what we call an object of focus. So it's like an anchor for our attention to bring, because you'll notice, and maybe you can relate to this, to those who have meditated or those who've tried or just don't like it, like not having something to focus on, that the mind gets very busy, right? So when we quiet ourselves down, all of a sudden we become really, really aware of how busy our mind is, or how easily distracted we are, or how uncomfortable our body is, right? And we can feel very untethered, like we can feel like, this is just this is overwhelming. This is making me more anxious than I need to be. So when you're doing formal sitting meditation, there's usually what's known as an anchor, an object of focus. And the anchor is something that you can return your mind to over and over and over again to bring you to the present moment, right? So often when we're doing meditation, you'll hear about people using breath as an object of focus or as an anchor. So when the mind wanders, you're instructed, bring your attention back to the sensations of the breath, right? Bring yourself back over. Or sometimes people will do a mantra. You've heard of that. They might have a phrase or a word that they use and they bring their attention back to that. Sometimes people might, I remember when I was in college, and this is way before I meditated ever, I had a roommate who had this like hippie boyfriend, and she and him would sit in their bedroom and like stare at a candle. And I just thought they were like the weirdest people. But anyway, but they were using the candle as the object of focus, right? So really all that's doing, it's like is giving you a home base. So if you think of what an anchor is, right? If you were out on the choppy seas and you needed to keep your boat still, you'd drop an anchor, right? And that would keep the boat still. So you wouldn't be like thrown around by the wind or the waves. You would be fairly steady. So it's a way to keep that wandering mind, which we all have, steady. And really what mindfulness is not to sit and meditate and clear your mind of all thoughts, because that is a very tall order and you probably will fail at that. What the task is to notice that the mind has wandered, right? Bring that mindful awareness and say like, oh, I just noticed I was racing off into what I'm going to eat for dinner. I've raced off into what's due tomorrow, things I have to do this weekend. And once we notice, then we make a choice. Oh, I ran away, my mind ran away, I'm going to bring it back to the present moment. And then I bring it back to whatever that object of focus is. And you do it over and over and over again. And that return, that's what builds your mindfulness muscle. It's not that you're going to clear your mind of all thoughts. It's not that at all. It's building the capacity to be in the present moment for longer periods of time. So you're building that muscle, right? So it's kind of like if you were learning how to play the piano, you would need to play scales, right? Over and over again, get the fingers going and become acquainted with the keys. And ultimately, it's not that you want to get good at scales, right? It's an exercise to get you good at piano playing, right? Or if you were a baseball player, you would do batting practice, right? So mindfulness practice is just that same thing. It's not the practice in and of itself that you want to get good at. It's that you're building this capacity to be in the present moment, longer periods of time. You're building that strength to be mindful so that you become less reactive to your own thoughts, less reactive to distractions in your environment, more aware when you're going off the rails like I was yesterday with my grumpiness, right? So that you can become aware of that and be like, oh, okay, Allison, bring yourself back to the present moment, right? And do something that's helpful for yourself, right? It's like taking care of yourself. It's sort of like when I think someone said, I noticed my sore forearm, right? Like if you hadn't taken a moment to take that break, then you might have overworked that arm to the point where you could be injured, right? You need to take a break, but you need to notice that you need to take a break. And oftentimes we're just on autopilot all the time on autopilot. So I want to guide us through a little bit of a seated meditation, not too long. Don't freak out, it's not too long. It'll just be about 10 minutes. So you can know, like if you've never meditated before, you'll be able to get a feel for it. We're going to be using the breath as that anchor back into the present moment. But I also want to say if the breath is not like a neutral or pleasant anchor for you, for whatever reason, you might have a stuffy nose or just the breath doesn't work for you. You can choose another anchor, like your feet on the ground or your hands in your lap, or even your seat in the chair. And I'll guide you through that. And as I guide you through it, I also want to let you know too, that my guidance is simply an invitation. These are suggestions. So this is your time for self-care. So if something doesn't feel right for you, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like just do what feels right. You feel free to ignore my voice as I guide you through if it's not feeling right for you. Okay, so when we do formal meditation, formal sitting meditation, it's nice to be seated in a chair with your back somewhat upright. You don't want to be slouching too much because that might cause you to fall asleep. But of course, you don't want to be uncomfortable too. So if you have pillows or something to put behind your back, keep you a little bit upright, but don't get too caught up in, just find a comfortable position, but just know if you're really slumped over, you might fall asleep. So somewhat up, but relaxed. You could stand up, you could lie down, whatever feels right for you. Okay. And then finding that supportive posture. Again, this is only going to be about 10 minutes of practice. So once you've found your posture that feels supportive, if you choose to do so, you can close your eyes if that feels comfortable. If it doesn't, feel free to drop your gaze a little bit in front of you. So a soft gaze down toward the ground. And really the only reason we close our eyes or drop our gaze is to just free ourselves of some obvious visual distractions, right? So it helps us to go a bit inward if our eyes are closed or partially closed. Again, doing what's right for you. And then start, just as we were doing before when we were standing, start to feel into those contact points where the body is being supported by the surface below or behind you. So you might notice your feet resting upon the ground. You might notice your seat in the chair, your hips and pelvis. Perhaps your back is resting against a pillow or cushion in the back of your chair. You might notice where your hands are placed, perhaps on your lap or your legs. All those areas that are being supported. And feeling into the solidity and the weight of the body in its current position. Seeing if you can allow yourself to surrender to gravity and soften. You might want to take 2 or 3 deeper, longer settling breaths. So a slightly deeper inhale through the nose, followed by a slightly longer exhale through the mouth. And taking 2 or 3 of these deep, conscious, settling breaths. You might even sigh with the out-breath. Imagine letting go of any tightness or tension in the body. With those out-breaths. So taking a few of these comfortable, conscious, deep breaths. And then when you're ready, allowing the breath to return to its natural rhythm, allowing the breath to be natural and spontaneous. And we're going to be using the sensations of the breath as the anchor for our attention when the mind wanders. But as I said before, if the breath, for whatever reason, doesn't feel like a neutral or pleasant anchor, feel free to use the sensations in the hands or the sensations in the feet as your anchor. So anytime the mind wanders away, which it will, it's inevitable, it's the nature of mind to wander, we notice and we gently and without criticism and with patience, bring our attention back to the object of focus, the sensations in the breath. So starting to feel where you feel the breath most predominantly in your body. So it might be the air moving in through the nostrils, might be the rise and fall of the chest or abdomen, might be a combination. Just noticing where you feel the breath most easily and see if you can rest your attention there. Almost as if you're on a beach chair looking out at the ocean, riding the waves of the breath, not changing anything. Sensing into the breath. And then when the mind wanders into thoughts of the future or thoughts of the past, simply noticing and then returning to the anchor, to the present moment. And each time we notice that the mind has wandered away, that is the mindfulness. That's the awareness that we're cultivating. That awareness that the mind has wandered and gently re-escorting it back to the object of focus, to the anchor, to the present moment. And each time we do that, it's like a rep. It's like a rep. If we were doing bicep curls or whatever, we're building that muscle, that mindfulness muscle. Not trying to change anything. If the mind is busy or sluggish, we're being with our experience, whatever it is. And our only task is to notice if the mind has wandered. And if it has, bring it back to the anchor. That's all we're doing. Simple, but not easy. It's either breath or not breath. Bringing our full open-hearted awareness, seeing if we can bring to this practice certain qualities like patience and kindness. And if we notice thoughts of criticism or judgment, we just notice and let them go and bring the attention back to the anchor. And if we have to shift our position, that's okay. Just do so mindfully. Using the anchor as a way to steady the mind, as we would steady a boat. So breathing in, know that you are breathing in. And breathing out, know that you are breathing out. And you may want to see if you can stay with the breath from the very, very beginning of the inhale all the way until it peaks and becomes the exhale, and then all the way until the exhale dissolves into nothing in that little space before the next inhale, riding the waves of the breath. Seeing too, if you're wanting this experience to be something that is different from what the experience is, and just noticing that it's just a thought. So simply notice and return the attention to the breath, to the anchor. It's so easy to get lost in our thoughts. So we're building that capacity to not get caught up in the thought stream. We notice, and then we pull ourselves back gently and kindly to the breath. And now slowly starting to deepen the breath, Deepening the inhale and lengthening the exhale just ever so slightly. And imagining with the inhale that you're infusing the breath with wakefulness, with energy, and possibly infusing the exhale with ease and calm. And then noticing once again those contact points where the body is being held and supported by the surface below and behind you. Your feet, the seat on the chair, your hands, your back. Feeling the weight and solidity of the body, your body, being held and supported. And then in a moment, I'm going to ring a bell 3 times. Stay with the sounds of the bells until you can no longer hear them before opening your eyes. And then gently, if you haven't already done so, blinking the eyes open if they were closed. Again, like earlier, you might want to stretch the body a little bit after we were seated in this position for a little while.
10 minutes is a long time.
It can be. It can feel that way. It can also feel like it was really quick for some, right? So we each have our own experience. Some people might have loved this. Some people might have hated it, right? So, so
I
check in.
loved it, but I have a lot of work to do because thank God for your voice. The mind is like
Yeah, we start to really
going
notice.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yep,
think it
yep,
does
yep.
it on purpose. Oh, you're going to give me a minute? Let me do this.
Yeah, yeah. It is amazing, right? Because we so often don't pause through the day, right? And I don't know
No.
about you, but I know if I'm super busy during the day and I don't take any time to check in with myself about like, how am I? How's my mind? How's my body? How's my mood? How's my energy? Then I can't sleep that night because it's like my mind is just racing, right? Because I
It's
have
like when you're
myself.
on the phone and your kids all of a sudden have 5 million things to tell you. This is how it felt.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, your
But it
mind
feels
wants
good.
your attention, Fariba.
That's
I see some comments. I just want to look at some of the comments here. Felt good, but kept drifting to sleep. And I wanted to address that, Janet. Thank you for putting that in the chat. When we close our eyes or give ourselves a pause during the day, there's a couple things going on. It may be that we're just tired because a lot of us are sleep deprived. So when we finally stop, sit and close our eyes, we'll fall asleep. So it may be that you're just tired. The other thing is sometimes when we close our eyes, that signals to our body that we're going to sleep because maybe we don't close our eyes at all during the day unless to blink. So our body says, good, we're going to sleep. So it could be a number of things. So that's a very normal and typical response that you'll drift off to sleep. And the more you practice mindfulness practice, especially with meditation, less likely you are to fall asleep unless you're just really tired.
So you shouldn't really do this when you go to bed at night.
You can.
You can, but then you're going to really fall asleep though.
Well, I don't want to give too many rules around it because I want it because you know what, there's different kinds of meditation. And if you're having sleep difficulties because your mind won't stop racing or your body's really tense and you choose to do your meditation at night and it helps you fall asleep, then I say go for it.
I've been doing visualization at night.
Okay.
And I do fall asleep at some point.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, you're giving yourself something to focus on.
I think that's what it is. Yes.
Relaxation and ease rather than maybe letting the mind run amok to worries or things like that. So it's bringing, again, it's focus, it's bringing a steadiness to your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have about 5 minutes left and I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions before we close up or any comments.
Yes, for me, it would be nice to have something like a motivation, to say, okay, I'm gonna do these things, and then I'm gonna look forward to my meditation moment to maybe go somewhere in a quiet place and kind of get my mind off of everything and just look at some plants. I have a few corners in the backyard. Now with the new COVID, we have a backyard now.
Great.
Vacationing.
And that can be, a way of meditating as well. It's just taking moments throughout your day to get away from like the frenzy of the day and meditate on your plants. I mean, you could go and I'm looking at my window and I see my Mary bush.
The only thing is that I'm getting impatient so I have to really be, focused on that and say, okay, I'm going to have to do it and not thinking about, I have to go back to
It's a
work.
practice. Yeah, it's a practice like anything else. It really is. We start to get to know ourselves very well.
Yeah, and it needs to be an enjoyment. It needs to be some time
for
off.
sure.
Something to look forward to. You know.
Thank you, Alice. Does anyone have any comments or questions? If not, that's fine too. I hope this was helpful for you. And I'll give myself a plug. I do have my Thursday mindfulness meditation.
You still have that? Because I
still have that Thursdays from 12:30 to 1.
I was going to advertise it for you.
Oh, thank you. I do my own PR. I do my own.
Yes, I see.
For Reva. Yes, I have that
Allison, that's the time we have our union meetings every Thursday from 12 to 1.
She's right. We have Union Town Hall from 12
to 12.
So I've learned that there's never a perfect time. So I used to do it from 11:30 to 12. And then people said, that's no good because I have work. And then I thought I'd change it to the lunch hour. And then after I advertised the change, Michelle, I got the news that was when the classifieds had their union. And I was like, so one
for me, 4:30 to 5 would work, if you could.
Yeah, the end of the day, I think is might be a little bit easier for some.
Yeah, because during the lunch, I really have the opportunity to have a proper lunch, because I'm.
I know.
And next I have to do so.
Yeah. Well, if anyone can make it at that time, that would be great. If not, what I would say, there's so many great apps out there right now. And if you don't know that Headspace is free for people in LA County, it is. So I think if you go to headspace.com/LA County, that'll take you to Headspace and you can get a free subscription for the year, which is amazing. And you don't have to pay for it. And they have lots of guided meditations. There's also Insight Timer, which is another great app. So there's so many apps. I see other people saying, Stop, Breathe, and Think is a good app. So there's so many great apps out there. So I really highly recommend if you can find some guided meditations, because those can be really.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah, it can be hard sometimes to do it on your own, especially in the beginning when you're first learning how to meditate. It's very easy to sort of let the mind will just run off, Yeah. So, and UCLA, thank you, Marilyn. Yeah, UCLA also has a really nice free app. You can look that up too.
It's free introductory, or then you have to pay, or because there are many.
No, some of them are actually free.
No, they're free
trial, and then.
No, free.
Yeah, it's free, right?
Yeah, they're free.
The LA County one is definitely free.
Yep. And so is Insight Timer.
And I think Kaiser has a few that are also free if you're with Kaiser. If that's who your medical thing is, then Kaiser has a bunch for free also.
Yeah, I think calm.com is free for Kaiser.
Yes, they have a few good ones. They also have a lot of workouts that are free and things like that.
Yeah, so take advantage of any of that free stuff.
We need some workouts also.
Yes. All right, well, I see it. People are dropping off, so
Yes, thank you very much, everybody.
So
Thank you,
much.
Thank you,
Allison.
thank you. I
We
really
love
appreciate
having you, and I know we're gonna have you more.
it.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, cool. Thank you
Bye.
so much, everyone. Take care.
Bye,
Stay
everybody.
safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Gonna read the chat, see if I missed anything.